Guys, so today's review will be focusing on integrating evidence into our writing. So in other words, we're going to be talking about lead-ins and introductory phrases. So what exactly what does it mean to integrate a quote into your writing? So in very basic terms, it basically just means to incorporate a piece of evidence into your paragraphs while making it all flow together so it reads nicely. You integrate your quote with two main things. The first thing is going to be a transitional phrase. So you're going to signal to your reader like, hey, I'm moving into something else. And then you're going to provide that lead in, which is going to be context or summary from the story or text that you are actually quoting from. So we'll get into what exactly those things mean, and I'll provide examples and we'll work through it together today. So the transitional phrase. Transitional phrases are intended to signal to the reader that you are about to move into your next topic, or just as an example of what you've already talked about. These things can be like, for example, for instance, furthermore, in contrast, as a result, immediately after. There's lots of phrases that you could use for transitional phrases. Those are just a few of them, probably the most commonly used ones. Very simple, like 2 words, 1 word phrases that will signal like, hey, I'm about to give an example of something or move into my next topic. So like it says on the right-hand side of this, these phrases help your reader understand where you are going in your thought process and what exactly your next sentence is intended to show. Is your next sentence supposed to show a contrast in what you previously said? Is it supposed to provide an example of what you just said? Is it meant to elaborate on what you just said? Is it meant to explain what happened after what you just explained? So it's important when you're choosing your transitional phrases that you understand where you're trying to go after. So are you trying to actually give an example of something? Or are you trying to talk about how something's different than what you already said? Are you trying to elaborate on a point that you just gave? Or are you just trying to explain something that happened after what you already said? So you really have to think, where am I going? And then you can purposefully pick those transitional phrases. Once you do that, you're then going to move into the lead-ins, okay? So once you provide your transitional phrase, your next step is to actually provide that context for where this evidence is coming from. So this is when you have to give actual details from the story so your reader can understand some of the following things. What happened in the story before your quote showed up, who said the quote you're giving, who your quote was said to if it was dialogue, what happened to cause a reaction or action in the quote that you're giving. You have to give context. You don't just want to drop a quote into your paragraph, or else your reader's going to be like, wait, why did they say that? Where did that come from? I don't know what's being talked about right now. You don't want your reader confused, okay? And this helps them not be confused. So let's go over an example. If I was trying to provide this quote, okay, and I'm going to use a pretty common transitional phrase. I'm probably just going to use for example when I'm writing this, but you guys will use whatever you need to use in order to incorporate this quote into your paragraphs. So I need to use the quote, Jews, listen to me. That's all I ask of you. No money, no pity, just listen to me. Giselle 7. So if I want to use this quote, I need to first answer a few questions. So you're going to go to page 7 in your book and we'll find this quote and we'll work through this together. Now let me flip to the page. Okay, so this quote comes about like a quarter of the way down. It says, as for Moshe, he wept and pleaded, Jews, listen to me. That's all I ask of you. No money, no pity, just listen to me. He kept shouting in a synagogue between the prayer at dusk and the evening prayer. So if I know this is my quote, and I'm like, okay, I remember what took place here. So this is, and if I would have reread this page and a half that led up to this, I would see that Moshe was telling about his experience when he was taken by the Germans. And basically when he had to dig the trenches and he saw people being shot into the trenches and he just happened to get shot into the leg. So he was able to escape. And now he came back to Saget to warn everybody about this, basically. Okay. And that's all he wants to talk about. So I know what happened. So that's the first step. Make sure you understand what happened. And then you can start answering these questions. So who said this? Who are they saying this to? When are they saying this? Why are they saying this? Once I answer those questions, then I can form a proper transitional phrase and lead in for this. So I'm actually going to make this smaller so that way we're not, I can actually type into this with you guys. So let's start off by answering who exactly said this. So if I look in here, I don't want this underlined anymore, and I won't make it bolded. So I know this is Moshe the Beetle because it says, as for Moshe, he wept and pleaded and then it gives his dialogue, right? So Moshi the beetle is talking. Great. Now, who is Moshi the beetle talking to? That's our next step. So if we're looking at this quote, it kind of just sounds like he's shouting it to everybody, right? Like he's not really talking to anybody in particular, but he's just kind of like shouting it to everyone. So we'll just say like the Jews of Saigon. He is talking to the Jews of Saigon. Oops. Okay, perfect. Now, when is Moshi the beetle saying this? So now it's getting into kind of like the context around it besides just who's actually talking. So when are they saying this? It does say specifically in the synagogue between prayer at dusk and the evening prayer, but that's probably not exactly what I want to talk about. I probably want to say like when in the story is it being said. So let's say when Moshi the beetle returns to Saigon, and we know after being tortured, right, or almost killed, like after being, or almost being killed, we'll say. After almost being killed by the Nazis, so we do want to make sure we incorporate that in, because so then your reader would be asking, well, who almost killed him, right? We want to make sure they know that, by the Nazis. And then, or we'll add in, he says this, okay? And then why are they saying this? So we do know in this, he's saying it to warn the Jewish people, right? So that's his purpose. He's trying to warn them to get out while they still can. So Moshi is trying to warn them, or warn the Jewish people to get out while they still can. Okay, wonderful. So I have all of these answers, like great, now what? Now your next step is to take all of these answers and combine them into a nice flowing lead-in so your reader knows what the heck happened before this quote, okay? So how I can form this, and you can always write it in multiple ways. Just because I write it this way doesn't mean you guys have to. So I will add, we'll get rid of this. We'll move this over, and I will write this in bold. So let's start off with, for example, that's my transitional phrase, not a capital E. For example, let's see. We'll say when, for example, when Moshi the beetle returns to Saigon. So I'm using that third question, Saigon, after almost being killed by the Nazis. He tries to warn the Jewish people of his town by yelling, comma, and then I would give my quote. Okay, so I'll even actually repost, I'll paste this in. So that way we have it all together and you can see it all flowing together. Obviously it's different format, but that's okay. All right, we'll add this in. I think it's just bolded, that's the only difference. Both. Okay, oh, it's a smaller font. Okay, there we go. So my entire transitional phrase into lead-in, into quote says, for example, when Moshi the beetle returns to Saigon after almost being killed by the Nazis, he tries to warn the Jewish people of his town by yelling, Jews, listen to me. That's all I ask of you. No money, no pity, just listen to me. Okay, so that is my lead-in. Very simple. So we took a few of these questions and the answers to these questions and formed it in to a way to introduce my reader into this quote. Okay, so for dialogue, sometimes it's a lot easier because you have a speaker and you know who they're talking to, and it does a lot of great information to add in. Sometimes when we're working with narration, it gets a little bit trickier. So we're going to practice that on the next slide. So I'll make this bigger again for us while we move into the next one. So let's do another one. So this time we're going to pick one that's not dialogue. Let's say I'm trying to integrate in this quote. We were told to roll up our sleeves and file past the table. The three veteran prisoners, needles in hand, tattooed numbers on, that should say our left arms. I became A7713, Gazelle 42. So my first step again is to answer some questions. I know this is narration because when I flip to page 42, and if you guys want to flip with me to 42, it's about, let's see, probably like 3/4 of the way down the page. It starts with a paragraph, in the afternoon they made us line up, and then it ends with, I had no other name. So that is going to be the paragraph we're working with, basically. And I took about 3 sentences in is where I started quoting from. So I need to figure out the answer to some of these questions. At what point in the story is this happening? What page number, chapter number, plot point, etc.? What happened before this moment? And what moment, person, feeling is being described here, okay? Since it's narration, we want to talk about what's kind of being talked about, not what's being said per se, okay? So I'm going to escape out of this so we can type in, and we'll start piecing together our lead-in for this. And again, like I said, I'm going to use that, for example, transitional phrase here. Okay, so at what point in the story is this happening? Very simply, we know it's on page 42, so I'll add that in right away, page 42. What chapter is this in? I want to say this is chapter 3, when they first get to the camps. Let's see. Yep, chapter 3, okay. We don't have a plot like rising action, falling action, any of that, because this isn't a fictional story. So we can't really comment on that part, but we could comment on, like, we know they're at the concentration camp. So we could say at the concentration camp, we know they're in Auschwitz at this point. So we could say that, or where they're in, well, Birkenau, which is a part of Auschwitz. So we could say, while they are in the concentration camps, or in their first concentration camp, we'll say, in the first concentration camp, make sure I spell it right, Birkenau, okay, thank you, good. Okay, so we know it's page 42, chapter 3, and this is when they're in the first concentration camp of Birkenau, okay, wonderful. Now, what happened before this moment? So what's going on when he talks about this? That is going to require some reading, okay? So maybe while I'm reading, you guys can read or skim over this page or so. So there's going to be a little pause here because I need to refresh my memory as well. All right, so it sounds like he's describing, and I guess I made a mistake here, and that's okay. When you read through, you think you know where something is, and then you don't. So Birkenau is where they first arrived, and then they moved them into the actual like Auschwitz portion of Auschwitz-Birkenau. So now we're going to say actually Auschwitz here. This seems to be their first day in Auschwitz, and he's kind of describing his process of getting into Auschwitz, like how they're given food, how they're sent to wash, shower, and then this is when they get their tattoo, their numbers. So we'll just say what happened before this moment. We'll say just before this is when Eli and his father came to Auschwitz. Ooh, Auschwitz. Wow, okay. So small on my screen, I can't even see that I'm writing. Okay. I spelled Auschwitz wrong. Wonderful. Okay. Oh, no. Auschwitz. Okay, perfect. Father came to Auschwitz. And they are, let's say, going through the, what is that word? Let's say the, I don't even know what word to call it. We'll just say the entrance, through the entrance. They're going through the entrance process. I don't even, well, we can make that sound prettier when we actually get there. And that's part of it too. You kind of don't always know what to say right off the bat. And you're going through this the first time with me, so you get to see my actual thought process here. All right, so what moment or person feeling is actually being described here? So this is him actually getting the tattoo. This is a form of dehumanization. We've talked about that before. I'm sure if you're in Mrs. Carter's class, you also talked about that moment as well. So we're going to say Eli is describing them getting their kind of like new names, slash how they were being processed into the camp. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so next up is to actually create that lead-in. All right, let's move this guy over, and I'm gonna make my font a little bit bold. Okay, so again, let's make this bigger so you guys can actually see what we're talking about here. Okay, so for example, now what do we want to say? Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's say, for example, in chapter 3, I don't need a capital either. In chapter 3, Eli describes, let's say, in chapter 3, while Eli and his father are being processed into Auschwitz, he describes them getting, we'll say this, their new names. And then you would give your quote. So let's copy and paste this. Yeah, Control C. Oh, I don't need that because I copied that. Control V. All right, let's make sure okay, perfect. We were told to roll up our sleeves, blah, blah, blah. And let's bold this as well. Okay, so here we are. For example, in chapter 3, while Eli and his father are being processed into Auschwitz, he describes them getting their new names. We were told to roll up our sleeves and file past the table the 3 veteran prisoners, needles in hand, tattooed numbers on our left arms. I became A7713. Okay, so that one, as you guys could see with my thought process, took a little bit longer. And that's okay. Sometimes you have to kind of work through it and figure out, what do I want to say here? How do I introduce this and not make it sound like the previous one? But as I said at the preface for this one, when you're not quoting dialogue, sometimes it's harder because you do have to really think about what exactly is going on and what's necessary to use here. So hopefully you see me think through this, me writing them out in detail here on this slide and on the previous slide helped you. And now it is your turn to go to Moodle. There's a handout there for you that you're going to practice writing lead-ins for random quotes from Knight that we have provided for you. Okay, so get to practicing, and you guys are awesome. And I know you guys can make the most beautiful sounding lead-ins. Good job today. See you next time.